ladies and gentlemen. This is Vin with your daily news update. Yes, this is a new, how would you say it? Forum or a new way that we're going to communicate the news to y'all. It's going to be very, very interesting. First up, as advertised, Donald Trump. Good Lord, this man cannot get away from controversy. Apparently, according to CNN, the Miami Herald is reporting that Trump watched the Super Bowl with the ex-owner of the spa linked to Robert Kraft's arrest. So if you happen to have been hibernating under a rock for the last 2 or 3 weeks, after the Super Bowl, Robert Kraft was accused of soliciting prostitutes at this spa in Florida. And so he has vehemently denied those charges. The folks who make those charges say they have him on camera engaging in said activity. We'll find out when he has his day in court. What's interesting, though, is that it appears that a Florida woman who once owned the day spa where Patriots owner Robert Kraft allegedly solicited sexual acts watched the Super Bowl with President Donald Trump days before Kraft was arrested, according to a report in the Miami Herald. Li Yang, who goes by the name of Cindy, no longer owns Orchids of Asia Day Spa, where Kraft is alleged to have paid for oral sex, but her family still owns several South Florida spas, according to the Miami Herald. Kraft has denied the charges against him. Yang posted a selfie with Trump at his West Palm Beach Golf Club on February 3rd at a Super Bowl watch party. "We love our president," the caption read. This is not a good look for Trump. Now, I don't think anything legal is going to come of this, although there was a report from, I think the guy works from ESPN, who said that Robert Kraft was not the biggest name mentioned in the sting. And so that was kind of an ominous phrase. We were all looking to see who the other folks were, because you can't really get much bigger than Robert Kraft as far as the NFL goes, considering he's won 6 Super Bowls over the last, 15, 16 years. And so that story never was really developed. And now what we have is this Florida woman who's taking a selfie, and she used to own the very spa that, according to federal investigators, has been used as a front for sex trafficking of Asian people. And so obviously the connection is there. And obviously the question is, are you trying to tell me that Mr. Trump had no idea about the nature of this business, considering how vocal Mr. Kraft has been about his friendship with Trump, talking about how after Mr. Kraft's wife died, Trump called him every day to make sure that he was okay, which was a beautiful story. But now we're in a situation where Mr. Kraft is in trouble, and now Trump being associated with Kraft is not a good look for Trump. Before, it was flipped. Before, it was Kraft was associated with Trump. It's not a good look for Kraft, but now the tables have turned, as they say. This is not a good look for Trump, but at the end of the day, nothing is really going to happen to him, right? I can predict right now nothing is going to happen. Now, this is not the typically well-researched Vin and Sorry exclusive that you normally see. This is just reacting to the news that we see at the moment. The caption said, "We love our president." I bet she does. Now, all of us probably are of the assumption that Mr. Trump visited said spa multiple times, probably considering his penchant for his affinity for sex workers. And I'm not saying that to denigrate the sex workers at all, but we already have objective proof that demonstrates that Mr. Trump likes to cavort with he likes to pay for sex. I mean, we know that's obvious. Nothing is going to come of this, but it's definitely not a good look. And it definitely, the funny part about all this is now it makes Kraft look more guilty that Trump is aligned with this lady. At least in my mind, it does. Very, very interesting stuff. So moving right along to something that's actually really significant, because really that whole discussion that we just had about Trump is more Scandal Inquirer relevance at this point, because we all know nothing is going to happen to Mr. Trump. But What is interesting is what's happening in the Democratic Party. Representative Ilhan Omar slams Barack Obama's messages of hope and change as a mirage. Now, keep in mind, this is written at Fox News, right? So the previous article that I read to you was from CNN, and this article is from Fox News. It's hilarious to me that both of these companies try to tell us that they're fair and balanced, and yet they're very discriminatory in what news they report, and they're very discriminatory in how they position that news. Rookie Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar, fresh off of igniting an intra-party uproar with comments widely viewed as anti-Semitic, took a swipe at former President Barack Obama, saying in an explosive interview, the 44th president message of hope and change was a mirage, and blasting his administration's drone and border detention policies. Omar, the Minnesota Democrat, took aim at the president's famed slogan while further criticizing the Democratic Party for perpetuating the status quo in the interview with Politico. Recalling the caging of kids at the U.S.-Mexico border and the droning of countries around the world on Obama's watch, Omar charged that Obama operated within the same fundamentally broken framework as his Republican successor, the piece reads. Omar is then quoted as saying, "We can't only be upset with Trump. His policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They were just more polished than he was." Whoa. Whoa. Because you'll remember when the whole "we're caging babies" and all this came out, one of the main Republican apologetic talking points was, hey, we didn't create this. This was happening under Obama. And then the leftists were saying, oh, that's whataboutism. No, it's not whataboutism. It's be consistent. If you're upset and angry that Trump did something and then Obama did the same thing and you're not upset and angry, then your credibility goes out the window. We can be mad at Trump if he's committing human rights atrocities now, for sure. We can. And the fact that Obama committed them or didn't commit them isn't relevant to us being mad at Trump now. However, it destroys your credibility if you're angry when the Republican does it and okay when the Democrat does it. It's the same thing about that guy in Virginia with the blackface, who's, to my knowledge at this point, still refusing to step down. If that would have been Brett Kavanaugh, who'd been caught with blackface, he wouldn't be in the Supreme Court right now, and there'd be a whole bunch of outrage. So this has always been about being consistent. And so when Miss Omar says we can't only be upset with Trump, his policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They were just more polished. That's a very honest thing to say. The problem is many leftists are going to skew her for that, because this is a political game and you're supposed to continue to play the political game. You're supposed to do the back and forth thing. You're supposed to act like Obama was pure as the driven snow and that Trump is literally Hitler. But if you align Trump and your Messiah Obama and you say they're both the same, just that Obama is a little bit more technical and savvy in his speech than Trump is, then you've got a problem. Honesty doesn't work very well in politics. The comments came after the passage of Thursday of a broad anti-bigotry resolution prompted by Omar's prior comments about Israel. The resolution and the drama surrounding its passage exposed chasms in the Democratic caucus regarding Israel and marked a coup of sorts for a tight-knit band of House freshmen. Yes, of course, this is referring to so-called Justice Democrats or progressives, right? So you've got AOC, who's kind of the ringleader, and then you've got Ilhan Omar, who's also the ringleader. And so their idea is establishment Democrats are just as much of the problem as establishment Republicans are, and we need to change that from the inside before we go after Republicans. That's basically the idea. And so you had AOC going after Pelosi pretty early at a sit-in or a stand-in or whatever that was. And now you've got Miss Omar making a cheeseburger, a halal cheeseburger, by the way, out of the Barack Obama sacred cow. And this is a pretty important moment in the history of our republic when you've got this type of infighting within a party. Now, you did have a similar kind of issue with Trump, but it was much different because it was focused on a specific person. You know, you had the Never Trump campaign, right? And so you had this sort of intra-party jihad going on, but it's not like this, because there's an entire media wing to this Justice Democrat stuff. TYT and all that entire megalith is backing AOC and backing this concept of the Justice Democrats and the Progressive Democrat and the idea that establishment Democrats are ruining the party. And so there's all these debates about, do we leave the party and create an independent party and, you know, run with Bernie as a figurehead, or do we make the change within the party? And so you have guys like Jimmy Dore who's saying we just need to, you know, the Democratic Party cannot be redeemed. We just need to get rid of it wholesale. And then you have the folks over at TYT saying, no, there's a lot of money and power that we can scrape up from being affiliated with the Democratic Party. We just need to get these old people out of here. And so there's this whole changing of the guard thing, and that's when you had Whoopi Goldberg saying that all these young Democrats are new to the game and that they need to respect. You need to put some respect on Pelosi's name. So this is what this is. This is a shot here at the establishment from within the Democratic Party itself. This is huge. This is massive. Good Lord. The week was supposed to start off with a rebuke of Omar's anti-Semitic comments, and it ended up turning into a long list of other hateful actions. House Republican Whip Steve Scalise told Fox News on Friday, saying the final product fell short of addressing the real problem, but the broadside delivered at Obama is highly unusual for any Democrat, especially one who has been in the House for over 2 months and has already ticked off party elders with her outspokenness. Yet after Nancy Pelosi faced a rebellion in the ranks amid concerns a resolution would unfairly single out Omar, a Muslim, and increase security threats against her, she was recently the subject of an inflammatory poster at West Virginia Capitol falsely tying her to the 9/11 attacks. The resolution was overhauled. The result was a broad rebuke of bigotry, including anti-Semitism, as well as anti-Muslim discrimination and bigotry against minorities, perpetuated by white supremacists and others. The resolution condemned dual loyalty accusations, but did not mention Omar by name. The fight exposed deep divisions in the party, but on the 2020 campaign trail, heavyweights came to Omar's side. Vermont independent Bernie Sanders, who was raised Jewish, defended Omar, arguing that we must not, however, equate anti-Semitism with legitimate criticism of the right-wing Netanyahu government in Israel. What I fear is going on in the House now is an effort to target Congresswoman Omar as a way of stifling that debate, the senator added. That is wrong. Now, of course, Bernie Sanders, who is pretty much the only figurehead who can keep both of these groups together as far as establishment Democrats and progressive, because he's got cachet with both groups, is basically saying what people have long since complained about, which is anytime somebody criticizes Israel, they are immediately branded as an anti-Semite. Just like, very simply, if somebody criticizes Obama, back in the Obama administration, they were immediately categorized as anti-black or racist. It is not true that anybody who criticizes Israel is anti-Semitic, and it is not true that anybody who criticizes Obama is racist. It might be that people just disagree with policy. Now, Miss Ilhan she's a Muslim. So, of course, she is going to be biased to the plight of the Palestinian people who, by and large, are Muslim. If you know anything about the Muslim community, this has been an issue from day one about the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis, and America's seeming unilateral support of Israel, when in many cases Israel has overstepped the bounds of what many people would call justice. And these are not just Muslims saying that. They're Jewish people that believe that. There are Bernie Sanders himself has come out and spoken out against certain policies in Israel. And so what are we going to do? We're going to create an environment where only Jewish people can speak against Israel and only black people can speak against black people? Or are we going to go after certain policies and procedures and bills that get passed that are oppressive to people across the globe? That's the real question. The real question should have been, okay, was what she said true or false? Not, oh my God, you're anti-Semitic, which is very interesting considering the right is always talking about identity politics. And the right is always bringing up race and racism and saying that this is a typical maneuver that leftists use to stymie debate, which is true. Leftists do use race as a tactic, or racism as a tactic to stifle debate. That's not questioned. However, they did the exact same thing, in my view, to Ilhan Omar. She said something about a particular policy. She questioned people's loyalty to the United States, and immediately they went the identity politics racial route, which is what they always accuse leftists of doing. Now, leftists are the grand masters of this, but in this particular situation with Miss Omar, they got beaten at their own game because the Republicans brilliantly positioned this as a racial issue, and now there's a whole bill to rebuke anti-Semitism, which is directly related to Miss Omar. So, job well done, Republicans. The problem is you can never talk about snowflakery again. Okay, and the last thing in our perusal of the news in America, this actually was posted at CNN, so kudos to them. A fourth grader's teacher made him wash off his ashes after Mass on Ash Wednesday. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, William LeCloud, 9 years old. When 9-year-old William LeCloud went to the Utah public school on Wednesday, he knew some of his classmates might ask him about the ashen cross he wore on his forehead for Ash Wednesday. He didn't think his teacher would tell him it was inappropriate and make him wash it off. It was really bad, William told CNN by phone on Friday. I went to the office and I was crying. I felt like I was in trouble. William's teacher has been placed on administrative leave while the Davis School District investigates. Officials said in a statement calling the teacher's actions unacceptable. Well, this is good. This is good that the school recognizes that this type of discrimination and shaming is not what we do in the United States of America. Now, there are many secular jihadists that would love to enforce their brand of secular Sharia onto everyone in the public square. And so they take the establishment clause, where it says that we shall not establish a state religion. They take the establishment clause to mean that means that there can be or shall be no expression of religion in the public sphere, which is simply demonstrably untrue. That is not the point of the Establishment Clause. The point of the Establishment Clause was really based on the Protestant idea of freedom of conscience. Namely, that whatever you believe or don't believe about God has to come from your own conscience, your own soul, and not by government imposition. Remember, the folks who drafted the Establishment Clause are the same individuals whose parents fled for their lives from Bloody Mary and the Catholic pogroms that were happening, where you had to say that you believed in transubstantiation or get burned at the stake. You had to say a whole bunch of things that were against the conscience of the person, but because the state and the church were so entwined, that means that the church was able to bind upon the consciences of people certain theological positions. And so the sons of those people, the folks who drafted our Constitution, wanted to make sure that that was not repeated in America. So here's how this kid's ashen cross on his forehead would have violated the Establishment Clause. If the city council required every student to wear an ash cross on his head, that would be a violation of the Establishment Clause, because now you are establishing a religion. But what this actually does is actually violates the Establishment Clause. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to read the actual verbiage of the actual Establishment Clause, because it's very interesting. The First Amendment's Establishment Clause prohibits the government from making any law respecting an establishment of religion. Okay? So you cannot establish a religion, which was the point of what I was saying before. If they made folks wear those crosses on their heads, then that would be violating the Establishment Clause for a very obvious reason. That obvious reason is you are now forcing people to do so. But remember, the other concern in the Establishment Clause was the free exercise thereof. So what they were worried about was the government imposing positively the a particular church or religion onto the people. The other thing that they were worried about is that the government would impose or block people from freely exercising their religion, and that's exactly what happened here. So what happened in this particular situation is that this teacher actually violated the Establishment Clause by forcing this child to go to the principal and wipe off his cross from his forehead. So there we are. That's our history lesson for today. Your kid going to school with a Bible, or your kid praying, or your kid going to school with a cross on his forehead to celebrate Lent is not a violation of the Establishment Clause. Forcing him not to do so is. All right, well, that's our news update for today. Love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.